You're watching South Asian Newsline, and here are the top stories we are tracking for you on Wednesday, the 5th of November. Trump-Modi speak frequently as trade talks continue, says White House. India ties an opportunity, not threat. Sri Lanka's opposition leader Sajith Premadasa. And Afghans recount 6.3 quake horror, shore up cracked homes as winters near. And now for all the details. White House spokesperson Karoline Leavitt, while speaking to reporters on Tuesday, said that US President Donald Trump speaks often with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi and that trade teams from both the countries continue to hold serious discussions. I know the president has great respect for Prime Minister Modi and they speak pretty frequently, White House spokesperson said. While presenting his keynote remarks in South Korea last week, the US president said that he wanted to reach a trade deal with India, signaling a thaw in relations that soured to their lowest point in decades after US president doubled tariffs on Indian imports to 50% as punishment for India's purchases of Russian oil. After Washington's sanctions, Indian refiners cut Russian oil imports last week on Moscow's top two crude exporters, informed Reuters.
I think he feels very positive and strongly about it. As you know, he recently, a few weeks back, spoke to Prime Minister directly when he celebrated in the Oval Office Diwali with many high-ranking Indian American officials here at the White House. We have a great U.S. ambassador to India in Mr. Sergio Gore, who will represent our country very well. And the president and his trade team continue to be in very serious discussions with India with respect to that topic. So I know the president has great respect for Prime Minister Modi, and they speak pretty frequently.
And Sajith Premadasa, Sri Lanka's leader of the opposition on Tuesday, said bilateral ties between both the countries should be seen as an opportunity, not as threat, even as Colombo faces economic, social, political, cultural and religious challenges. Premadasa, on his 3-day official visit to India, urged both countries to think anew and think afar in order to strengthen cooperation amid regional and global shifts. In a post on X, India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar mentioned that he discussed Sri Lanka's relations and neighborhood-first policy and asserted that India will always be supportive of progress and development in Sri Lanka. India's Niti Aayog also hosted Premadasa and his delegation in New Delhi on Tuesday. The meeting focused on enhancing India-Sri Lanka bilateral cooperation. Premadasa, who arrived in India on Monday, also held talks with Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman and Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla on Tuesday. In April this year, when Prime Minister Narendra Modi was on a state visit to Colombo, he had met Premadasa and lauded his efforts in strengthening bilateral ties.
At a time when Sri Lanka is facing these enormous challenges, the Indo-Sri Lanka relationship should be devoid of parochial thinking. We need to think anew and we need to think afar. Our relationship should be results-based, evidence-based. Ensure that both our nation states are able to work together.
Moving on. In Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, residents are reeling under long power cuts despite the Neelum-Jhelum Hydropower Project meant to supply them electricity. Locals allege large-scale corruption and mismanagement, demanding a federal inquiry into the project's repeated failures.
The residents of Muzaffarabad in Pakistan-occupied Jammu and Kashmir continue to suffer due to prolonged electricity load shedding despite the presence of the Neelum-Jhelum Hydropower Project in the region. People say that while the project was meant to bring relief and development, it has instead become a symbol of mismanagement and corruption.
चंद साल पहले यहाँ नीलम झेलम प्रोजेक्ट लगा था जो अभी किसी फन्नी खराबी की वजह से है बंद पड़ा हुआ है 960 मेगावाट बिजली उसमें तैयार होनी थी और हुई भी है कोई साल तक वो तैयार भी होती रही है एक तो ये है कि उसकी डिजाइनिंग कोई प्रॉपर नहीं हुई मिसाल के तौर पे आपने मुजफ्फराबाद सिटी के अंदर जो है ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट और वाटर बॉडीज बनानी थी, वो आपकी एनओसी में मौजूद है, शराइत में से है, वो नहीं बनाई गई। और वो प्रोजेक्ट जो था ना, वो जितनी लागत का था उससे 5 गुना 10 गुना ज्यादा रकम को जो है करप्शन करके खर्च किया गया है। और अभी भी देखें 2 बार वो बंद हो चुका है, एक बार भी बंद हुआ है, जिससे जो है मैं समझता हूँ वापटा को और हुकूमत पाकिस्तान को अरबों का लॉस हो रहा है।
The people of Pajk are demanding a fair investigation into the project's failures and an end to Pakistan's exploitation of their land and resources.
हमारी जो रिक्वायरमेंट है वो 400-450 मेगावाट है, तो एक तो ये उसकी खामी है, उसे दूर किया जाए। उसके लिए इंक्वायरी कमेटी बनानी चाहिए, उसके लिए जो है फेडरल सतह पे ऐसी कमेटी होनी चाहिए कि जिन लोगों ने करप्शन की है उन्हें एहतसाब के कटहरे में लाया जाए, और जिन्होंने उसकी जो एनओसी के मुताबिक ट्रीटमेंट प्लांट और वाटर बॉडीज बनानी थी वो नहीं बनी, उन्हें जो है सजा जजा के अमल से गुजारा जाए।
And earthquake survivors in Afghanistan spent Tuesday sifting through the rubble of their homes and trying to reinforce cracked walls as overnight rain soaked fragile structures and forced many families to sleep outside in courtyards without proper shelter. The 6.3 magnitude earthquake that struck near Mazar-i-Sharif early on Monday killed at least 27 people and injured almost 1,000, authorities have said. Hundreds of homes across northern districts have been flattened, sparking concern as winter approaches and temperatures drop below freezing. However, relief efforts have begun, but damaged roads and weak infrastructure were slowing relief, residents and aid workers said. Afghanistan, prone to frequent natural disasters, faces some of its deadliest tolls from earthquakes, which kill an average of 560 people each year and cause roughly $80 million in annual damage.
جایی نداریم مکتب پر است داریم اینجا مشکلات داریم زندگی در خانه شکست کردیم تلفن کار نگاه کردیم اینجا شدیم یعنی چاپ شدن معلوم نیست که روز بارش شد پکر صبح میشه ندیگه در کفو کو برافون خانه که فرو میره همه شکست کرده
ای که شما میبینین کلگی جو رزگی شده اینا دیگه قابل استفاده نیسته ضروریت مردم فعلا امی است که باید خیمه برشون برسه باید توشک برسه کمپل برسه از قبیل خوراک باب برشان برسه چون که به خاطر که شکر ما داریم الحمدلله ما داشتیم اما کلگی بزیر خانه‌های ویران شده مانده.
3 climbers, including a foreign national, were killed and 8 others were missing after an avalanche hit a climbing expedition on a Himalayan peak in Nepal, officials confirmed on Tuesday. Among those missing were 5 foreign nationals, police told Reuters. 4 injured climbers were evacuated to a nearby village and a search for the missing climbers, including by helicopter, was continuing, police official Gyan Kumar Mehto said. The nationalities of the dead or the missing foreigners were not immediately known. The deadly avalanche struck on Yalung Ri Himal mountain, which rises to 5,630 meters in Dholaka district. Search and rescue operations were continuing as the authorities fear more could still be buried under the snow. Autumn is one of Nepal's busiest mountaineering season, but recent severe weather has brought chaos to the Himalayan with multiple avalanches, heavy snow and stranded trackers across the region.
हिजो दोलखा जिल्लाको रोलबालिङ हिमाल हिमशृङ्खला अन्तर्गत यालुङ री पिकको आधार शिविर नजिकै चाहिँ हिम पहिरोले केही स्वदेशी तथा विदेशी पर्यटकहरू त्यहाँ पुरिनु भएको र केहीको दुःखद निधन भएको र केही घाइते तथा मिसिङ भएको भन्ने खबर आएको छ। 3 जनाको दुःखद निधन भएको त्यसमा विदेशी नागरिकहरू पनि रहेको भन्ने छ।
Moving on. Sikh devotees offered prayers at the famous Golden Temple and other places of worship across India to celebrate the birth anniversary of Sikhism's founder, Guru Nanak. The devotees pondered upon the spiritual leader's teachings to mark the occasion. Take a look.
Hundreds of Sikh devotees thronged the famous Golden Temple in India's northern Amritsar city on Wednesday to celebrate the 556th birth anniversary of Guru Nanak Dev, the founder of Sikhism. Since early morning, devotees took holy dips, lit lamps and offered prayers as the Golden Temple's inner sanctum sanctorum was beautifully decorated for the occasion. Guru Nanak Dev, the first Sikh Guru, was born in the year 1469 in Nankana Sahib, on the full moon day in the Kartik month of the lunar calendar. The main teachings of Guru Nanak are summed in the simple imperatives of Kirat Karo, Naam Japo and Vanchako, which means earn your living with honest means, meditate on the God's name and serve others.
ਤੇ ਦੂਰੋਂ ਚੱਲ ਕੇ ਸੰਗਤਾਂ ਆਉਂਦੀਆਂ ਗੁਰੂ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਦਰਸ਼ਨ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇਥੋਂ ਖੁਸ਼ੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਕੀ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ ਕੋਲ? ਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਨਕ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਦੇ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਅਰਦਾਸ ਕੀਤੀ ਆ, ਨਾਮ ਬਾਣੀ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਵੇਲੇ ਬਾਬਾ ਜੀ ਬਖਸ਼ ਕੇ ਰੱਖਣ, ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ ਰੱਖਣ, ਸਰਬੱਤ ਦਾ ਭਲਾ ਕਰਨ।
Similar scenes were witnessed in gurdwaras or Sikh places of worship across the country, including capital New Delhi, where devotees lit candles and also distributed sweets on the occasion.
And that's all in tonight's edition. We will see you same time tomorrow. Till then, good night.